and about your photography. And I'm going to move some chairs, and we'll sit down, if that's all right. So Ed, welcome and congratulations, first of all, on a masterpiece, I think. Dyna ni. Felly, dan hwn yw gynnal yn y Saesneg, ond cael chi bach o flas o hanesed a'i gymhelliadau, falle, I wneud yr hyn mae e'n wneud. What I noticed is that with Patagonia and with Wales, it's often to do with individuals that things happen and that there are links between individuals. Tell me a little bit about, first of all, why you moved to Wales.
Well, you're not Welsh?
No, I'm definitely not Welsh, that's apparent. First of all, can I say my grŵp yn size, yn siarad Cymraeg, hanner o te, yn siwgr. I love those words. Sorry, I don't speak Welsh. I apologise, I haven't learned yet. I originally came to Anglesey to see a friend from college, and I got knocked off my motorbike in 1998 in Stoke-on-Trent, and spent a whole week I was meant to see him in Patagonia. And that was my introduction to North Wales. Okay. And I hate going somewhere once and not really experiencing it. So this reflects my work in Patagonia. So I met people in the hospital and I thought, well, I've got to come back again. I haven't really fully understood the place. So when a friend suggested that I come back to see an old college friend, another mutual friend, in '99, I'd finished one job I was working on in Essex and went up on motorbike for 2 weeks. And I wasn't really looking forward to returning back to Essex, where I'm from. And instantly felt there was something really unique about the place. So I didn't have any money, and I went to the job centre and got a job as a security guard at the National Stead Lodge, which is in Penfro. And at the end of the 2 weeks holiday, I said to my friend who's from Anglesey, from Penarsan, I said, do you know somewhere I can stay? So he said, oh, I know a fantastic gentleman, who I must mention here this evening, called Will Williams, and he's here this evening. Thank you very much. Could you stick your hand up? Thank you very much. Thank you for applauding. Well, sorry to embarrass you there, Will. He's known as Will Cockmoyle after his farm, Cockmoyle. And very simply, I put my tent up there for 10 weeks and worked as security guards, and the rest is history. But I could go on, but I started to learn from Will about the characters, and I was interested in documenting characters in Essex, and then my work has continued from there. But what I was experiencing, when I first met Will, who was milking his cows by hand, he had a flat cap on, and I remember he turned it back to front, like an old racing car driver, and there he was on his stool, milking the cow with his head pressed against the belly of the cow. I guess he was tired, and I was taking photographs. I've never seen anything like it. Maybe in Essex 50 years ago. But and then, of course, after I photographed there, I wanted to go to Patagonia.
But there's somebody else who you saw on television.
Absolutely.
So yes, please tell me again.
I'm sorry, I'm talking to you, but I should be facing all of you. And also, thank you very much for coming this evening. I really do appreciate it. I recognise a lot of you. Yes, very simply, I'd heard a little bit about Patagonia, and I'd seen it on the news occasionally, and there was a Di Jones television documentary programme, and I watched it with one of Will's sons, and I was in a different room. And afterwards, Will came through, Will Williams, who's here this evening, and he said, Ed, it looks like your kind of place, maybe you should go. And I just thought, right, that's it. So the programme, the seed was sown in watching the programme, and then it was cemented by Will coming through, who inspired me. But, 2004 and then 2005, I made an application for my first grant, so I could go abroad, and 2006 it finally happened.
I'm going to rewind a little bit, because you said that you don't like going anywhere just once, and you like to get under the skin of things, which is patently obvious in the images that we see here. What's the relationship between you and your camera? Why did you start photographing?
That's a very good question. It's something that I still haven't managed to analyse completely yet. It goes very deep. 8 years old, I was given my first camera. and then it's something to do with sentimentality and being aware of mortality and having to record something and what feels very precious to you and being aware of the people around you and what you love, what your passion is, how you connect with other people. It's very unique. So I started documenting when I was working on farms in Essex, and I believe that everything happens for a reason. So I was photographing farmers in Essex. I went up to Scotland to learn how to build dry stone walls and photograph people there. But you can't say to somebody when you're young, go out and take photographs and take good photographs. It's like writing, you need experience. So all the time, every day you're experiencing and building up this kind of mental imagery.
So, you get the money to go to Patagonia, and you arrive. What were your first impressions when you got there?
One, it was extremely cold because I left in British summer, which was baking hot in 2006, and I've been working on the farm, and I arrived, and people were stopping me and saying, "Aren't you cold?" And I couldn't understand what they were saying because there I didn't speak any Spanish, but I learned how to speak Castellano. But the most serious, the strongest initial impressions when I first arrived, after a month, were that it's an amazing place and it needs to be documented seriously. I can't just go for a month, which is what I originally intended. So I went for a month, pushed my flight back to 3 months and then a year. But my initial impressions were, what an amazing place. People seem to be living every day 50 years in the past. They were very old-fashioned, and real values and great morals, and it was very, very exciting.
So how are you greeted when you're read, apart from aren't you cold?
Okay. It's funny how things work out. The first, I went from Buenos Aires for about 20 hours on coach, 22 hours, down to Trelew, and then I went on a bus to Gaiman, and I walked down the street, and I had a contact, Linda Gonzalez, who's very well known down there, and I knew more or less where she was, and she actually just said to me, when you arrive, go to a payphone, phone me, and I'll come and get you picked up. But I needed directions of where to find even the payphone, or more or less where she was. So I went into a request list, which is a car spare parts shop, and said, which way are you going, kind of thing. And they said, are you English? Right? Are you well? Trying to gauge if I was a tourist. And they didn't know me from Adam. So I said I'm English, and so he was able to speak a little bit in English rather than Welsh. That was Bruno Pugh, who's in some of these photographs. He races little racing cars. And I went to the payphone, phoned Linda Gonzalez, was whisked up to her house and interviewed by a local newspaper for a story, and I gave her some Glengetty tea bags, which she was very grateful for. I took a load out with me. Funny enough, that day she'd actually just run out of the tea bags, so we had a cup of tea very quickly, of course, they were desperate for it. Those were my first initial impressions, but it was hard, I have to say.
And having spent time in Wales and got to know us, how would you say that people in Patagonia are different to people in Wales?
I haven't actually thought about that. Obviously there's a very strong link, and they're very much aware of that, and very proud of it, and passionate as anything. I only knew about the national stead rod in Wales, but they've got mini stead rods, macro stead rods, youth stead rods, and national stead rods there as well. So it's a big deal. But they see themselves as Argentine, first and foremost. They're proud to be Argentine, which is an amazing thing, because you get variations in different classes in Britain, but there, I felt like they all felt they were in the same boat. They were all Argentine, and all under one president, and it's a very complex thing. But all very proud to be of Welsh descent, hugely proud. And to see the dry dock flag everywhere was, I constantly, it was like being in another world, as the book is called.
How long did you stay for in Wales?
Well, eventually I was there for 2.5 years.
So after a while, you weren't the Englishman with the camera, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. If I have to say, after having lived at Cockermore, at Will Williams's farm, and moving around North Wales and then South Wales, and really loving Wales and feeling a real affinity for it. I mean, actually, my father's mother was born in Wales. Maybe that's the connection, I don't know. But just appreciating Wales, I had to go there, and I fell in love with the place. So initially, many people who were really strongly in the Welsh community, I call it the Welsh community, I mean Welsh descendants, actually they found it humorous, but I couldn't speak Welsh or Spanish. They didn't understand what I was doing there. None of them took me seriously, but fair play, why should they? They didn't know me. You see, and I remember Lina Gonzalez saying, so is photography a hobby for you? And she said, you can't walk around the town with a big rucksack with your cameras in, because you look like a gringo, a tourista, So she gave me this red and white stripy nail shopping bag. But I had so many heavy cameras, I was walking around, I just thought it was crazy. So I wanted to fit in, but, I mean, a great example is Benito Owen, who was a lovely, lovely gentleman. He was 65 when he passed away, I think. He had only retired for a couple of months. When I first met him, I knew instantly that something was wrong, but I was trying to work out if it was something wrong in his relationship with his wife. But he was a real man, Basically, he had cancer, and maybe more of you in the audience know the true story. But what I can gauge is that he knew he had cancer, he didn't want treatment, he wanted to basically accept it and just die. And there's so many people dying from cancer there, as other people are all over the world. But to begin with, he was taking me places, and we would be silent in the pickup. And he was bemused. He wanted to, when people come from Wales, they want to embrace them and say, yes, Wales, and yet we couldn't communicate. And I think he was a bit fed up about it, so was I. I was ashamed, I have to say, that I couldn't communicate. So we're driving along, he'd take me to a farm 1 or 2 times at the beginning, and then I was able to travel around by myself. And, they would say, who is this guy? Let's just humour him, let's allow him to take our photograph, maybe something will come of it. And then he'll go away. But I didn't. I was just there, all the time. So I remember him, and I was laughing, and who is this guy? And then I had my first exhibition, which Dr. Owen kindly mentioned this evening. And I remember people coming in, and before I'd been a bit of a clown, I think, and felt like a clown, and they'd go, what? But then they looked at the work on the wall and said, oh, actually, maybe this guy is doing something that's beneficial for us, and it's worthwhile. And they started to take it a bit more seriously. And I made 4 exhibitions while I was there. That was my first one. But I made after 3 months in the Consejo de Liberante in the high streets of Guyana. And it was really well received. But the thing is, in Patagonia, they really appreciate photographers. And to them, it's like, it's weird, because I've never felt like it's a proper job in Britain, because it's not really appreciated like it until this evening. But there, they come up to you and say, respect to you. You are a photographer. You have a job. You do something. And then the whole thing snowballed. So by the end, after 2.5 years, I produced, lots of work, and I could still be there now.